Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Galley or ARC in Hederis. The first step, as always, is to start your new project. This is the Hederis dashboard that you see when you first log into the app. And I'm going to click Create New Galley Project. I get taken to the Create New Project screen where I can fill in my book details. I'm going to create a galley for the picture of Dorian Gray. I don't have an ISBN for my book, so I'm just going to fill this in with zeros for now. I do have a discount code, which I'll fill in here. If you're creating your first project in Hederis, you'll see this auto-filled with the first project discount code. And I'm going to choose the group that I want this project to belong to. Whenever you're creating projects for the company that you work for, a publishing company or any other type of company, I definitely recommend working under the umbrella of a group. It's really easy to create a group. You just do it over here, new group. And we have documentation on our documentation website. I'll just hop over there right now. This is our documentation site. And if you search for groups, both the About groups and the Groups and Billing articles are a great way to get started with creating a group. Okay, back to my project. I'll click Create New Project. And here we go. I've got my skeleton project here. There's nothing in it, of course. I actually do have a manuscript ready to go that I want to upload. So I'll go to my file browser on my computer and just drag that book manuscript over. What's happening right now is Hederis is making some guesses about what is inside your manuscript, where the chapter breaks are, where the chapter titles are, where the body text is, that sort of thing. Defining that document structure is a really important step in any automated workflow, and Hederis, of course, is built on top of an automated backend. So the first thing we'll do is actually review those styles and that tagging and make sure it all looks okay, make any changes that need to be made. You can do that right here in the Hederis app, or you can do that in the Word file that Hederis gives back to you. I'm going to go over to the Edit Text pane. And you can see the app did find some chapter breaks, although not all of them, it looks like. And it did make some good guesses about where some chapter titles were. So let's start going through and reviewing. You can see it correctly tagged this as a title. This is the author name. It tagged this as plain text paragraph, and I want to change that to my publisher name. And I'll change this to a location paragraph. And we'll just go through the entire text and review each paragraph and re-tag it as needed. So this one, for example, is tagged as a title, but it should just be a plain text paragraph. And the same for this one, and so on. I'll click Save Text here. Okay, and go back to our dashboard. We also have lots of documentation about how to do that coding or styling or tagging. It has a lot of different names depending on the company you work for. But that structure review, if you go back to our documentation site, in the Working with Book Text section, the first 4 articles are all about how to work with those styles. So we've got one that's just about styles, an introduction to what it means to do that kind of structure tagging. And then we've got an overview of the different types of styles we use and how we use them. And then how to use the edit text pane, which is what you just saw me do. And additionally, how to edit styles right in Microsoft Word. So let's pop back over to my project. You can download the preliminary styled manuscript right from the app here. And that gives you a good first start for working with styles in Word. So I'll go ahead and download it now. And let's just take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so here's our downloaded Word file. You can see these pink things are where the app identified chapter breaks. It did a pretty decent job at the beginning here, but I know that it missed a few. You can see in this left sidebar all of the style names that are applied to each paragraph. You can see they all start with this head prefix. That means it's a special Hederis style. And all of this information is given in more detail in the documentation that I showed you previously. So I'm not going to dive too deeply into it, but I do want to just help you get oriented into what styles look like, what a styled Word manuscript looks like, and so on. Okay, but I actually already reviewed and applied all of my correct styles to my manuscript. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that reviewed manuscript to my project. Here it is, tagged. And because this manuscript already has all of those Hederis styles applied to it, the app doesn't need to do that initial step of guessing and trying to apply styles here. It'll just use the styles that are already applied to my manuscript. And it looks like the conversion is finished. So let's start looking at the design. For starters, we'll just jump in and look at one of the chapters here. This is what it looks like out of the box. Roughly book-like here. You can see the pages on the right that I'm scrolling through, but it definitely could use some improvement. So let's jump back to the dashboard and go down to this step 4 here, where I am actually going to import one of our public templates. These are templates that have already been designed, have all the styles defined, and you can just import them into your project and use them out of the box. That word template can be a little bit misleading because every book in Hederis can be completely customized. So even if we're importing that public template, we're going to make a copy of it into this project, and then you can customize it however you want. So if you want to use a different font for your titles or change literally anything, any part of the design, you're totally free to do that. So we'll choose from public templates here. We'll choose the classic template. I'll give it a very not exciting name here. And that made a copy of that template in our project. So now let's go ahead and take a look at this new design. I'm just going to click this Edit and Design button. It's one of the many ways that you can access that design preview that we saw just a minute ago. And here is the new design in our book. I'll go back to our chapter file so that we can get a better comparison. You can see we've got a little more space here between our chapter title and the first paragraph. That first paragraph is also not indented. And we've got placeholders for our running header text and our running footer page numbers. And that's all just predefined in that design template. You can also change the book trim size right here over in this Dimensions and Display menu. So I'm going to do a 5.5 by 8.5 inch book. I'll click Reflow Pages so we can get a preview of what that will look like. You can see it's that same design, it's just a little smaller now. Hederis gives you a ton more design options if you want to really dive in. You can use all of these general design settings here, which apply to your whole book. You can design what we call the page templates, which are called master pages in InDesign. And that's what controls your margin, sizes, where the running header and running footer will go, what text will be included there, and so on. You can also design every single type of paragraph here. So if you just click on any type of paragraph, it'll select the design settings for that, and you can dive in and get as intricate as you want to get here. Since I'm just making a galley and I'm under a bit of a deadline, I'm going to stick with what we've got. I did make a change though, so I'm going to click Save Design. Remember, I changed my trim size. And since this is the first time I'm looking at my text, I'm just going to go ahead and click Save Text as a good way to initialize my project. Now let's go back to our dashboard. Now there's one thing missing here, which is my book cover. That cover will only be used in the EPUB and the Kindle EPUB. It won't be applied to the PDF, but I want to have it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my file window, find my cover file, and just drag it over. And that gets applied automatically as the cover image here. The first image that you upload will be set as the cover image. You can also include images in the interior of the book and you upload them the same way. You just drag and drop them. Again, if we go back to our documentation site, we've got all kinds of documentation about how to insert an image into your book here, this whole images section, and how that works. So feel free to make use of that documentation. We'll go back to our project and go ahead and rebuild. This rebuild button generates a new version of your PDF and your EPUB and your Kindle EPUB. Okay, and our build is finished. So let's take a look at our PDF. I just downloaded it and I'm just going to open it right here in my browser. And you can see it looks just like the pages that we saw in the app. If we scroll down to find one of those chapters, these are placeholders for images that were in the manuscript, but I didn't upload to the actual app. So I just got a placeholder image inserted for now. And here we have a chapter. It has all the stuff that we saw in the app. And it also has this watermark that's added to every single page. And that's something that you can actually customize. For Hederis Galley projects, a watermark is required for the PDF file. It won't be applied to the EPUB or Kindle file, however. So if you just have a digital only project, Galley digital mode is a great way for you to create an EPUB on the fly. And you can use that EPUB file that's created the same way that you would use any other EPUB file. But for the PDF, you have to include a watermark, and you can configure that in your export settings. If you scroll down, you can see this PDF watermark section. You can choose to instead use an image watermark, which will insert an image behind the text on every page, or you can stick with a text watermark, or you can use both. And you can customize the text that appears in your watermark. Whoops. And choose whether to include it in the header or the footer and what font size and how to align that. These changes will automatically get applied the next time you rebuild your PDF. And that is your quick start demo for how to create a galley in Hederis. There's a lot more you can do with the app. You could validate your EPUB file to make sure it's ready for distribution. You could invite other people to collaborate with you. There's no extra charge for inviting people. You can have as many collaborators as you want within a project. And you can also get into the design and customize your book as much as you want. Hopefully this gave you everything you needed to get up and running. If you still have questions, of course, feel free to look around our documentation site. Again, that's docs.hederis.com. And we also have this helpful little help box in the actual app itself where you can browse our documentation right here and also send us an email with questions if there's something that you can't figure out. We are always happy to help. And with that, I wish you happy bookmaking.